UNC and Oklahoma. I don't think that we thought this game would be billed the way that it is currently when it was first announced on the schedule, but we have a really good UNC team and a really good Oklahoma team under Porter Moser, who seems to have found their footing on the third year of his tenure. That's Connor Hope. I'm Brian Rauf, both of Heat Check CBB here on the Supers Media YouTube channel. This is a big game. UNC is coming off the loss at Kentucky. Oklahoma wants to validate their start and pick up another big win, certainly their most notable win to date on the season if they were able to beat UNC. What do you look at as the keys to this game?
Well, it's the UNC offense versus the Oklahoma defense is obviously the matchup we're going to be most looking for to deliver on this high caliber of play. I'm not sold on Oklahoma. I have them ranked high because they've won, but you look at the teams they've won. They've beat Iowa, who is, if you were down on Iowa, probably around the level you thought they were going to be at, but certainly not the level that Iowa teams of the past few years have been. USC is far underperforming what people thought they were going to be doing this far into the season. So they, beating USC by 2 on a neutral, giving up 70 points to a USC team that has struggled at points offensively, isn't a good look for this Oklahoma team. Arkansas has underperformed what we thought they were going to do. Providence, I would say, has underperformed where we thought they were going to be given the personnel that they had returning to this team. So they have 4 big name wins. And I don't know if you can point at a single team of those 4 and say they are performing at or above what we expected from them coming into the season. So this North Carolina team, again, probably performing around where we had them, but we had them as a top 25 team coming into this season. They're performing, at least right now, above that billing for us. And so it's going to be a good test. It's going to, I think, do more to validate Oklahoma's defense than it will to validate the offense, because I still think they're going to face much tougher defenses than UNC's in Big 12 play. But this UNC offense is one of the best in the country. If they can give the Tar Heels fits with their defense, I think they have the defense to compete in the Big 12. Maybe not for a title, certainly, but for a top 4 or 5 finish, which is a huge accomplishment given where they finished last year.
Yeah, Sooners coming in 10-0, but kind of to your point, don't have that elite win they can hang their hat on. Defense is top 10 in the country. This game, I think, is the biggest test of that. They handled Iowa, and Iowa's offense is superb, but UNC's has been a different beast this season. We saw what they did to Tennessee's defense. Oklahoma's going to have to stand up to that. I also think for Oklahoma, too, J.V. McCollum has stepped up and really emerged as a go-to guy for them and potentially being like the guy. Well, this is another test for him to show he can be that against a high-quality team in UNC. And looking at it from the UNC perspective now, Heels have been up and down. Like, they have flashed the ability to be an elite team, looked like a Final Four team at times. Certainly in the first half of that Tennessee game, looked like a Final Four team. And we've also seen them struggle at times and have things be a little bit more, or at least look more like the team that struggled last season. Obviously, the results have not been the same. But if you're UNC, and at least for me, if you're looking at them as at being one of the teams to beat in the ACC and being a top 20, top 15 caliber team all season long, Oklahoma, despite the gaudy record from a talent perspective, is a team that you should beat without like it being a super sweat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the one area where Oklahoma, in my opinion, and you might not share this, has a clear advantage is at the 1. I think I trust McCollum to be better than Cadeau in this game. I think if you look at the teams and the types of teams that North Carolina has lost to, a lot of them, Villanova, Mark Armstrong hasn't been a phenomenal guard, starting point guard for Villanova. But the last 2 games, they played elite guard play at Kentucky, even though they're freshmen, elite guard play. And they played elite guard play, as we've mentioned, against UConn. I think that is the matchup I most want to see in this game, because I think that's the matchup where if we were to come back on tomorrow and say Oklahoma won this game, why is that? It would be because McCollum did enough defensively to limit Cadeau and his effectiveness as a point guard. And on offense, McCollum just did what he does sometimes, which is score points in bunches.
Well, we know what a win would do for Oklahoma. Really validate them. I think a win for UNC does the same, but it would also be what we have come to expect from this UNC team. An interesting scenario, though, I think, from a UNC perspective, is if they lose this game, they would have been on a 3-game losing streak, have a win over Arkansas. They have the Tennessee win. But if you throw out that first half of the Tennessee game, where Tennessee was abnormally bad and inexplicably not itself before it kind of regained its footing, I wonder how we would look at this UNC team if that half wasn't there. And I think questions may come if they end up losing this game. So I'll spin the question to you. Do they win this game? Who's your pick?
I mean, I don't know if I would pick it differently for anything outside of a game in Norman. I'm going to go with UNC. I think it does help that this is probably going to be a very heavy Tar Heel crowd. And so I think that's going to help. I think, like I said, the advantage that Oklahoma has is at the 1. You run down these rosters 2 through 5. I'm probably giving the edge to North Carolina at every single one of those other positions. And I think this is a game where we kind of finally see, maybe Cormac Ryan really break out from 3. I know Riley and I have been going back and forth because I said Cormac Ryan can't shoot, but they might lean on him a little bit to shoot if they can't score on the interior against Oklahoma. Or flip side, I think one of the bigger advantages they have, and this might be something you disagree with as well, Oklahoma, I still think that Armando Bacot is leaps and bounds ahead of any big that Oklahoma can throw out at him. But I'm still not buying into what we've seen from John Hughley continuing over the course of the season.
I don't know if I'm willing to say the course of the season. I think he can continue a high level of play, but I also don't think he's at the level of Bacot and guys on that mark.
Because he's also not Iowa isn't their offense isn't and defense really isn't, based on their bigs. USC, their weakness is in the front court. I don't think Arkansas's front court is particularly strong compared to their backcourt. I like Brazil, but he hasn't looked the way I thought maybe he would this season. I thought he was going to break out and potentially have an All-American type season. He just hasn't been there. Providence their front court is their strength. And he shot 2 for 6 from 2-point range and 0 of 2 from 3 and had 3 rebounds against Providence and only played 17 minutes. So the games against the if you're talking Arkansas and Providence being the 2 best front courts that he's played, he's a combined 4 for 9, 4 for 11 from the floor, 4 for 9 from 2 with 7 rebounds. That's not going to cut it against Armando Bacot.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma has established itself as a very good team, but and they've beaten other teams who I think we'd consider to be in their tier. I don't
Right.
think they have the talent to compete with the horses of UNC and other teams that are in that tier ahead of them. So I think it'll be a well played game. I think it'll be fun, but I think UNC wins somewhere between like 7 and 12 points, rather comfortably, but not a blowout, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, we'll be back after the game here on the Sleepers Media YouTube channel to break down the results of that game and all the other big games around the country.